Just days before England opens up, the Health Secretary announces he's tested positive for COVID. Sajid Javid says he's suffering mild symptoms and is now isolating.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to update you all that I've tested positive for COVID. I was feeling a bit groggy last night, so I took a lateral flow test this morning and it's come out positive.
Also on the programme, a last-minute rule change for holidays to France throws travel plans into chaos.
I think it's a disaster. I think they should stop this whole thing. It's ridiculous now.
The search for survivors of the floods, with hundreds still missing in parts of Western Europe and thousands now homeless. And a heat wave across the UK makes some happy to stay at home.
I think it's lovely. I mean, look at the weather. You've got the sea over there. What's the difference between here and Spain?
This is ITV News with Romilly Weeks.
Good evening. The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, says he's tested positive for COVID-19 and is suffering mild symptoms. In a video he posted on Twitter, he said he's had both jabs, but took a lateral flow test this morning after feeling a bit groggy. He's now waiting for the results of a PCR test. Downing Street has not yet revealed if he had been in close contact with the Prime Minister or other ministers. It comes just as England prepares to open up on Monday and scrap most of the current restrictions. Our political correspondent David Wood has the latest.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to update you all that I've tested positive for COVID.
He promised England Freedom Day on Monday, but the new Health Secretary is almost certain to be spending it at home.
I'm grateful that I've had 2 jabs of the vaccine, and so far my symptoms are very mild. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone that's been involved in our national vaccine rollout programme, truly the best of its kind anywhere in the world.
He's waiting the results of a PCR test. If it's positive, then contact tracing will kick in.
Sajid Javid to make a statement.
And it has been a busy week for the Health Secretary. On Monday, he updated MPs on Freedom Day. The next day, he was out visiting a care home in London.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
As the week went on, there were more appearances in the Commons too. And yesterday, it's reported he was in Downing Street, where the PM had also been working. So many potential close contacts of the Health Secretary.
Well, of course, we hope it's not too serious and it gets better soon, but it actually serves as a very timely reminder that although the government might want us to think that we are out of this, we are not by a long way.
And as many make the most of the summer sun, COVID cases continue to rocket. More than 54,000 were reported today. And despite that, restrictions in England will still ease on Monday. The legal requirement to wear masks will be axed. All limits on social contact go. The guidance on working from home is being scrapped, and there'll be no cap on the numbers of people at events.
It does feel quite reckless to take such huge steps on Monday, and there are real concerns from all the NHS bodies, social care, trade unions, etc., about the impact that is going to have on the public and also on the pressure on the NHS and social care services.
To increase protection, adults who've not had the jab are being asked to step up to the wicket and get one. The Oval Cricket Ground in London has a grab a jab clinic this weekend. And in Bristol, the injection is on offer whilst out clothes shopping.
If you haven't had your jabs yet, please get out there and get them as soon as you can.
But for the Health Secretary, it's the threat of self-isolation that continues. David Wood, ITV News.
There's anger and frustration today following the government's U-turn over holidays to France. From Monday, France is being put in a special category, and anyone returning to England and Wales will have to self-isolate for 10 days, even if they've been double jabbed. As Neil Connery reports, it's thrown the travel plans of hundreds of thousands of people into chaos just as schools break up for the summer.
At London St Pancras today, Eurostar travellers heading for France were taking stock of the new rules. From Monday, those fully jabbed, returning to England and Wales from France, will still have to quarantine. Some were angry at the news.
It's disappointing because I'm double vaccinated and I thought that as of Monday it would all be all right and I'd be able to come back and not have to self-isolate. It's just a lot of money and yeah, worrying.
I think there's no consistency in the rules. Like, we just don't get it. It changes from one moment to another. It just can't follow up.
I think it's a disaster. I think they should stop this whole thing. It's ridiculous now. We've got to live with the virus.
From Monday, if you enter England and Wales from an amber list country and you've been double jabbed, you don't need to quarantine, but you do need a day 2 test. France remains on the amber list, but under different rules. Everyone travelling from there must isolate at home for up to 10 days and take at least 2 COVID tests. Abby Longstaff is going to France tomorrow to see her dying mother Robin after receiving a call from her care home this week. She's angry at the new measures at a stressful time for her family.
It makes you so anxious when you don't hear of any changes till such last minute, and it feels like late last night was so little notice for changes that are coming in on Monday, and it's so difficult for so many people, not just me, so many people.
The allure of a French holiday after the past 16 months has appealed to many, but the travel industry says these sudden changes will destroy customer confidence.
We were completely blindsided by this one. No one had any expectation that 8:30 on a Friday night we would receive such news that would cause so much chaos.
The new rules are over concerns about persistent cases of the beta variant of COVID in France.
We've got to do all measures possible to remove from circulation variants that cause severe disease and or bypass vaccines and or are more infectious.
The government here says it won't hesitate to take rapid action at borders to stop the spread of COVID and to protect the gains made by the vaccination programme. Neil Connery, ITV News.
And David Wood joins us now. David, any word on other members of the government, even the Prime Minister, having to isolate now because of Mr Javid's positive results?
No, not at the moment. And I've been reminded that until there is a positive PCR test, then test and trace doesn't kick in. But I imagine there are a fair few nervous ministers and advisers around at the moment. Of course, when MPs sit in the Commons, they sit socially distanced and wear face masks when they're talking. So they should be all right in terms of test and trace. But Sajid Javid has pulled out of a number of media interviews he was due to do tomorrow and been replaced by another minister, and he will have been involved in a number of meetings. We don't yet know whether any of those he was physically involved in or took part remotely, and a lot of those meetings will have been about France and what goes on there with quarantine, and the government coming under a lot of pressure, as we've been hearing, about the decision to change quarantine rules from France, but ministers insisting that they had to act quickly to stop the beta variant coming into here. There is a fear that vaccines aren't as effective against it. But look, there is a lot of criticism from the opposition parties on that. It's very difficult that the Health Secretary is now having to self-isolate. Cases continuing to rocket. 2 days in a row, more than 50,000 cases. It is difficult, but Freedom Day still goes ahead.
Right, David, thanks for that update. Meanwhile, Wales today is enjoying the latest relaxation of its anti-COVID measures. The number of people who can meet outdoors is being relaxed, and 6 people from different households are now allowed to meet indoors. And organised indoor events with up to 1,000 people seated will also be allowed for the first time in months. A major rescue operation is continuing in parts of Western Europe where at least 150 people have been killed by extreme flooding. Hundreds of others in Germany and Belgium are still unaccounted for, but officials hope that may be due to the mobile phone network being down in many areas. Joshua Stokes has the latest.
In Western Europe, the search for survivors continues. Over 150 people have died and hundreds are still missing after days of destruction, washing away people's homes and their livelihoods along with it. In Belgium, they're searching through what's left of their belongings. We are devastated, said this resident. This is our living room. You can see how high the water has been. The water was so high. In Germany, a refuge centre, gathering what they can for the thousands now homeless. Outside, the military have been called in to clear what remains. Visiting Erfstadt, the German president said it was a time of hardship, but the country is standing together. The people here are trusting that the solidarity that is being signalled will hold on, even when the headlines of newspapers won't be dominated by the catastrophe anymore. Only in the days to come will we see what damage remains. While parts of the Netherlands have declared a national emergency, experts say this extreme weather is down to climate change. But it'll be days before leaders can assess the full extent of the damage. And for residents, it's damage that'll take months to recover from. Joshua Stokes, ITV News.
And Lucy Hoff is in the town of Tert near Liège in Belgium. Lucy, the destruction is clearly horrendous. What's the latest on the search for the missing?
Well, Romilly, there is a desperate search here to find those currently unaccounted for. Some 20 people from these communities who've gone missing. That figure rising into the 100s when you go to Germany, so huge numbers of people. The military has been drafted in to help with those operations. There are hopes that some people are alive and just unreachable given the damage to the phone systems and mass power outages, but we have been warned that tragically the death toll is likely to rise. In this community, there is an attempt by people to salvage what they can from their homes and businesses. There is mounting anger, I think, about why evacuation warnings didn't come quickly enough, why extreme weather warnings that came at the beginning of this week weren't adhered to, a sense that if those systems were followed properly, then the mass loss of life could have been prevented.
Lucy in Belgium, thank you. St Helens have lifted Rugby League's Challenge Cup. They came from behind to beat Castleford 26 points to 12 in an action-packed match at Wembley. It's the 13th time St Helens have won the trophy. And Formula One history has been made at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone today. They're experimenting with a new qualifying system, the first ever so-called sprint race, a 17-lap race to determine starting positions for tomorrow's Grand Prix. And it will be a familiar face on pole position, championship leader Max Verstappen, coming home as the first ever sprint winner ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Finally, as you probably already know, much of the country has been basking in a heat wave. Weather forecasters predicted that it could have reached 28 degrees in the north and even 30 in the south. And in the last few minutes, the Met Office has said the hottest temperature was actually in County Down, Northern Ireland, where it reached a sweltering 31 degrees. Our reporter, Sangeeta Lal, went to Southend-on-Sea, where she found conditions to be the perfect advert for a summer staycation.
Soaring temperatures as the summer holidays begin. The perfect combination for many in Southend-on-Sea. The beach is busier than years before the pandemic, and as people celebrate being out in the sunshine, businesses here are excited too, as they welcome back furloughed staff to help cope with the rise in demand.
Fortunately, most of those are now back and working. We're coming up to our busy period, so we're recruiting and we've been able to take on about 20 staff, students and some full-time, which is good that we're earning money, they're earning money. It brings confidence back to the economy and the whole tourism sector, which is fantastic.
And so's the warm breeze that was more than welcome as temperatures reached almost 30 degrees Celsius. More than 80,000 people are expected to visit here over the weekend as families choose to stay local through the summer holidays.
As staycations are encouraged through the summer, weather like this is the perfect advert for a British holiday, and it seems to have made many people here feel like they don't need to go abroad just yet.
I think it's lovely. I mean, look at the weather. You've got the sea over there. What's the difference between here and Spain?
Go away will be a good option, but if it's not, then we can just do local. It's not too bad. London is good. You can do loads of things.
It's been a long time coming, a very long time, just to get out again, be allowed to sit on the beach again. It is lovely, yeah, definitely.
As inviting as the sunshine is, coronavirus is still spreading across the country. And with cases continuing to rise, people are being reminded to stick to social distancing rules.
You know, the Delta variant is active in the town, it's active in the UK, so we want people to, whilst they're enjoying themselves, to remain safe as possible.
And with temperatures set to rise even higher tomorrow, the warnings aren't just about coronavirus, but staying cool too, as Britain braces for a heatwave just as the school holidays begin. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
The beach is the only place to be, and that is it. I'm back with the late news at just after 10:30. Until then, good evening.